So I was thinking, what can I talk about? And I was thinking about commitment. And when you think about commitment to the business, being committed to do this for your family, being committed to something that you want to follow through to the very end of your life. The way I look at being committed to a business like this is, this is it's not only what I do, it's who I am. Okay, it's who I am. This business is who I am. Why? Because number one, in my order of my priorities in my life, I put God first because that's who's given me everything and who I'm grateful for being here on this earth and for everything he's given me, right? And then my family, the things I do for my family, and then everything I do to support my family, creating income and providing, being a provider for my family, and then tithing and offering to my God. So I look at my life kind of in an alignment. All right. Now, alignment can be up and down. Alignment can be this way. But, God occupies the number one thing in my life for me. And then everything that I do for number one encompasses everything I do for my family and everything I do to support my family. So that alignment to me is very important. And I don't look at it as separate as much as I look at it, because some people think of God, family, job, business, supporting the family. They can look at it as 1, 2, and 3. Okay, they kind of look at it as, man, it's not dark enough, but I apologize for that. I forgot to get new markers. But the way I look at it, I don't look at it as, look at this as God, family, and then providing. It's all in one circle. It's in the circle of me. It's in the circle of what I can control, the circle of who I am. I'm about God, family, and providing for them. All right? So that's how I kind of look at this whole thing. Now, when I look at that whole idea of commitment to anything, the first thing I think about just for myself is my lifelong commitment to my wife, Ginny. All right? And so in examining the idea of commitment, you can't find a better model than a husband and wife marriage, because it's a vow, it's a sacramental commitment in front of God that you administer that sacrament to each other. And it's something that, binds you, really, that you make that commitment the rest of your life. Okay? So I want to talk about that because for some reason I need to. It reminds me, it's a good reminder for myself about why I put my wife before myself. All right, why I put my family before myself, right? Why I look at the business, what can I do for my business before I think about my selfish desires of my flesh and, wanting to be lazy, right? We always have that tendency of wanting to give in to laziness, give in to pleasure, as opposed to doing what we need to do for our family and for our God. It's not like I do it for God, but it's what God's mission is for me. So I got to do what God wants me to do. It's his will that I'm in this business to do this business for so many reasons beyond money, to touch other people and help them along their road, okay? So when you commit to a business like this and you commit to something important and you commit to something that means something to you and what it's going to do for your family, I think that you can't be a different person in your marriage than you are in your business, right? If you don't have the commitment or learn the commitment or learn how to be committed in a marriage, how can you learn to be committed to anything that you care about long term? Okay, so I'm drawing this analogy because I think it's very important. Now, for those of you that are single, okay, maybe just listen, okay, learn something, but, kind of deposit it in your brain for later. But because my kids are coming, and, maybe these videos will still be online when I'm gone. This is what I want to tell them, okay? I want them to know about commitment, all right? And I hope they can take this not only in their own marriages, but other things that they're committed to. So have you ever gone to a wedding, and you see kind of like the perfect couple? I mean, we see it all the time, like the June weddings, and they have the perfect wedding, and Joe, the husband, is kind of this GQ model, and he's very successful in business, and he's going somewhere. And then you have Mary, who is like just beautiful and just this loving person, and they come together, and you're thinking, God, what a perfect couple. They have got everything ahead of them. They've got their hopes and dreams, right, and their future ahead, and they're fired up about, how their life is going to unfold, right? And so, and so the way I look at, when you look at people committing to a marriage, what I like to use is that it's kind of like a basin, okay? So you got Joe and you got Mary, and what they're doing is they're pouring a pitcher in this basin of their hopes, dreams, expectations of the future. Okay, everyone who's been married, you don't come in thinking, geez, I wonder how long this is going to last. Right? When you take those vows, you're looking at each other's eyes, you think, man, this is it for me. This is like, I am going to make this work, in sickness or in health, in good times and bad times, right? And so you pour all those hopes and dreams, and this basin, this bucket here, is full. When you get together, it's full. But what happens to that perfect marriage? Well, Joe and Mary, they start having kids, maybe 5, 6 years into marriage, start having kids, maybe 4 kids, maybe it's 8, 9, 10 years into the marriage. Then all of a sudden, everyone's shocked who went to the wedding, find out that their marriage is breaking up and they're going through a divorce. And you're thinking, what the heck happened to that couple? Like, how many times have that ever happened to you where those people, you think, what the heck? They had like they look good on the outside. He had a successful career, and she's this perfect mother of 4 kids, and they had the nice house and all the cars and tremendous vacations all over the world. And they just seem to have it together. All of a sudden, boom, they're going through divorce and going, what the heck happened there? And the facade of the perfect marriage, really, when you kind of peel the onion back and you see what happened over the course of that time, little by little, it doesn't all just happen, but little by little, basically there are 4 things that happened to them, okay? 4 things that happened to them. I call this leaks, things where your bucket of hopes, dreams, and expectations start leaking out, okay? All right, so the first one that develops, is when you promise when you get married to honor and love your spouse. The honor part, all right? Honor. So the opposite of honor is disrespect. See, these are things that the first leak develops is disrespect, contempt, and abuse. Emotional, could even be physical. That's one of the leaks that develop over time, is instead of you looking at what has brought you together and the things you loved about them, all right, you start focusing on the things that are different about them than you. That you're different. Start focusing on the differences, and then those differences start amplifying to the point where, you really start dishonoring each other, abuse each other, say bad things, and, it's like, "God, I can't stand you. I can't be in the same room with you because I can't believe you did that. I just have no respect for," it starts eroding the lack of respect that you start to develop because of things that are going on between the two of you. All of a sudden you start amplifying it, and it turns into honor and love to contempt, disrespect, and, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, even sometimes physical abuse. All right, so that's like the first leak. And a lot of you maybe know this. Look, I don't have the perfect marriage, but one thing I know is that you start getting here, man, it's like, it's going to drain this bucket. Hopes and dreams and expectations start pouring out of that bucket. Number two, we're in this business. So number two leak in this bucket here is poor handling of money. See, one thing in a marriage school, Alex, what do you mean marriage school? If you're like me, the Catholic Church has a pre-Cana requirement. Before you get married, you're required to go to like a pre-Cana retreat. This is a pre-marriage retreat to where you can kind of air out all these things. And a lot of things that people don't really focus on is how each one thinks about money and what they believe about money. Sometimes you have a spouse that comes in that just wants to spend it, and the other spouse wants to save it all the time, very frugal, and they come together and it just explodes, right? Or there's just no leadership in money. It's like, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to keep track of everything? Well, I don't want to do it. Why don't you do it? Well, I don't want to do it. All of a sudden it goes to hell, right? Or the wife thinking that the husband's supposed to be the provider, all that pressure on the provider, and he loses his job and he can't find a job. And then there's the disrespect and contempt starts to grow on the wife. It could be opposite. And she says, and she's very security minded. And when he loses his job, she just looks at him with disdain. Why can't you find another job? What are you waiting for? And then it just gets worse and worse. Poor handling of money, right? In fact, here's what's interesting is that sometimes when the economy gets worse and bad, the divorce rate you would think the divorce rate would go up. But actually when the economy gets bad, the divorce rate goes down. Why? Because people can't afford to get divorced, right? It's crazy. It's a crazy dynamic. That's really kind of what happens there, okay? But bottom line, poor handling of money. The thing about that, I don't care where you are in your marriage or how long you've been together, man, the sooner you talk about handling money and who does what, and and the better. And the more often you talk about it, the better, right? You got to be together on the same page when it comes to money. And it's very important, especially in this business, that your spouse knows what you're accomplishing, what you're trying to accomplish, and why you need to invest in leads so that you can turn that into money, and why you need to come to functions because it's good to invest in yourself for the business. Typically, the spouse is not on board right away with the investment you have to make in the business, like any business. So you got to bring them on board. The best thing to bring them on board is showing them that you're working it. You're out there dialing the phone, you're going on appointments, you are going to every hospital, you're doing everything you're supposed to do to make the business work, right? If they don't see you putting the effort behind the investment, why should they believe you when you say, honey, this is it, this is going to be our thing, this is going to get you home from working, or it's going to get us out of our financial crisis right now. You need to communicate. You need to make sure that she knows what you're doing by doing it. Communication, when it comes to handling money, is one of the most important things. But this is another thing that's another leak out of your hopes and dreams. Poor handling of money. This is really crucial because it amps up the contempt and the disrespect, right? Number 3. This might apply to some of you, or you may know of these situations. Drug and alcohol abuse. Here's kind of a crazy statistic on drug and alcohol abuse, and you know, maybe you can know just by, experiential. Okay, you maybe can get it that way, but 53%, 53% of us have a close family friend, not even friend, someone close family relative, or even within our family that has a drinking problem. 53%. And I'm sure you could say amen to that. I know this uncle or this niece or nephew or my son or daughter or me, right? Drug and alcohol abuse. It's a problem, right? And, that beautiful marriage of Joe and Mary, taking it to the extreme, what undercurrent of what all is going down is that he may have a drinking problem and he might be hiding it from his spouse, right? So it's that thing you're hiding that you don't talk about. So there's automatically, you're hiding this from your spouse. So now the dishonesty comes in, right? And then you're almost like cheating on your spouse because you love alcohol more, or whatever that's doing to you, right? And then your spouse is wondering, what is up? This is not the same man I married. All of a sudden he's turning into someone different, or it could be the wife, whatever. Now here's what's crazy about drug and alcohol abuse, if it happens over a long time, is that, if that person goes into rehab, what happens is their marriage has degraded so much that they've been enabling this condition, and he's been so hiding it until he has to take care of it. All of a sudden, once they get back from rehab, they're looking at each other like, I don't know how to deal with you when I'm not drunk. And she's looking at him going, I don't know how to deal with you when you're sober. And the relationship, over time, alcohol was the third person in the relationship that kind of kept it together, maybe, in a weird way. They kept it dysfunctionally together. Then once you take that third person out, alcohol, it's back to them, and they don't know how to live with each other off the stuff. So that's like the third leak. And then the fourth one, adultery. Cheating on your spouse. What is it? Is it like... it's a high rate of adultery, and then sometimes it's not even a sexual adulterer, it's an emotional relationship adulterer, where you're carrying on a more loving relationship with someone outside your marriage, even though it may not be sexual, but you're depending on them for emotional support, someone else, not your spouse, right? And, what this does, drug and alcohol, it amps up the disrespect, contempt, and abuse, right? Adultery does the same thing. One thing about that whole deal is that you can make a decision in advance how you're going to handle the potential for an adulterous relationship, having a relationship outside your marriage, that kind of relationship. And it's making a decision ahead of time, right? It's having a plan. And honestly, if you don't have a plan, how you're going to handle this, then, oh man, you're like opening the door for it to happen. Your decisions that you make in advance is the guardrails by which you keep your marriage in line, right? And this is a major one, especially for guys, man. One decision I made was I am going to not give in to lustful look. When I look at someone, I go, oh, wow, man, she looks hot. And then I start like fantasizing. I start thinking about what it would be like if. I guard my eyes. If I see someone who's hot, I guard my eye. I look away. I think it's something else. I don't want to give in to those thoughts, because a seed of a thought can turn into this oak tree of action. You got to be careful. Thoughts are things, and the seed of thought can grow. All right? You know, that little flirty thing, you go to a hotspot meeting, you kind of have this flirty thing going on with someone else who's not your wife, and then she flirts back at you, and you flirt back at her. All of a sudden, after a night out, you're both walking to the car, right? And then, boom. Like, seriously, make the decision not to flirt. Encourage everyone equally. Don't just encourage certain people that you have this attraction for. In fact, I would encourage you to encourage the people that you don't have a physical attraction for. Oh my gosh. I mean, what I'm saying is have a game plan. Don't give in. Don't give in to those things. Don't, like, you know, so there are some people, you know, we talk about alcohol and drug abuse, there's porn abuse, addiction to porn. You know, I know a marriage within the alliance that broke up, this is years ago, because the guy was addicted to porn and she didn't know what to do. That's another thing, but, you know, get rid of all those opportunities to fantasize and give into a fantasy world when your fantasy world is reality with your spouse. That's reality, and that's where you need to live in reality. You know, your hopes and dreams and expectations, it comes together for both of you, right? But then another hole leaks: adultery, drug and alcohol abuse, poor handling of money, disrespect and contempt. This will kill your marriage. This will kill your commitment to anything. And look, gang, if you can't figure this part out, how do you figure out commitment to a business, a commitment to your family by doing something that's going to be on a long-term basis for you, that will give you all your hopes and dreams financially, at least, you know, and getting around the people that believe in not doing these things, that are plugging up the holes in their marriages. Why wouldn't you want to be around those people? And look, we're not perfect. Please don't ever get the idea that any of us are perfect. But we're trying to plug the holes. We're all trying, man. We're all trying, right? We're all trying to plug. Because we want to keep this basin full with our hopes, dreams, and expectations. So please, let's erase this. I like to keep things simple. Okay. So what is a simple way to plug the holes? Just one simple thing, okay? Let's plug these holes. And I'm going to call plugging the holes, okay, this is the plug. Let me see if I can draw a plug. That plug is grace. That's the one word, grace. The one word in shoring up your marriage and shoring up your relationships, really relationships, but particularly with your spouse, particularly with, you know, even this business, but relationships, but particularly with your spouse, is this word grace. Grace. That's the one word. Why? What is grace? Grace is unmerited favor. It's actually a healing word, grace. Undeserved favor, unmerited favor is grace. The grace that God gave you, right, for forgiveness, right? And that's kind of the parent of forgiveness is grace. So forgiveness you can call it the child of grace, is this idea of forgiveness, right? The parent of forgiveness is grace. Unmerited favor, forgiveness. So So what does that mean? Like in a marriage relationship, what does that mean? The whole idea of grace and the forgiveness that comes from grace. When you're together, when you're dating, man, I loved the process of falling in love. I mean, I had many girlfriends. I'm not bragging. I'm just like, this is kind of how I rolled when I was in my 20s. I was all pent up at the academy. There's women at the academy. I had several cadet girlfriends, but the whole process of romance, I just love the process of romance. And what is that? It's finding the commonality between you and that significant other. You're drawing bridges. You're finding things that you like about each other, that you like about yourself. Sometimes the reflection of the person that you're attracted to reflects maybe things you like about yourself if you have a good self-image. Sometimes if you have a bad self-image, what happens, you're attracted to people that are opposite than you, that you admire those qualities because you don't have them yourself, right? You don't, maybe not strong enough in your self-image, so you try to find somebody who's totally opposite than you because you think that you want to be like them. Or some of you see another person as a project that I can resurrect this person. I can change this person to be who I want them to be, It's just, but the bottom line is you appreciate that person, you appreciate what's common. Maybe there's stuff that bugs you, but you just kind of gloss over it because you think they're sexy, they're hot, they're fun to be around, they affirm you as a person. When you're around them, they affirm you, they say you're awesome, and you believe them because you believe that's what they feel about you, and you think they're awesome. And sometimes you think, but they're awesome because they think you're awesome. It's this mutual awesomeness thing. And you get together and you're like, man, I could spend my life with this person. I could, the fact that they sleep in and I like to get up early, I don't care about that. The fact that they squeeze the tube of toothpaste from the middle and not from the bottom, it's kind of like when you're shopping for shoes, you ever do this? Like you find this awesome pair of shoes and you go, man, this is so awesome. This is going to go with my dress. It's a perfect color. Like, ladies, I don't know how you do it, but you figure out how to match your lipstick to your whatever you're wearing to your dadgum shoes. I mean, it's amazing how y'all do that. I have totally respect for you that can kind of put that all together. It just rocks, right? But even though those shoes might be the perfect color, as you're trying them out, you got that little pinch, a little bit of a pinch in your little pinky toe, but you think, that's not a big deal. I look good, man. I'm rocking this look. And you don't care about the little pinch because it's, you're just throwing it on and you're only walking for just a few paces and you think, dadgum, man, this looks awesome. Until you take it home and then you wear your outfit and your lipstick and everything to a party and you're hanging out and you're walking and 2-3 hours later, your feet are killing you. You just like, I can't wait to get these shoes off. And you're thinking, what a bad purchase. I'm not even comfortable in these, right? You see, you're so enamored by how it looks, you don't care about the little thing that will bug you long term. So I know when I try shoes out, I've done this enough times myself. Any little thing that's uncomfortable, I used to say, oh, it'll break in. Like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to waste my money on shoes that long-term are uncomfortable because I know it's going to bug me later. Okay? So, so when you get together, it's like you gloss over all that stuff. And then when you finally get together and you get married and you start your life, all of a sudden the differences start taking a certain, it starts cropping up. The things that bug you about them, all of a sudden it becomes this thing, right? And you're just like, I can't stand this. Okay? And the more you think about it, the more it becomes this big thing, right? Like, for example, okay. Oh man, I don't know if Jeannie's going to watch this video, but I mean, it's something that's just, So I'm not going to air out all our dirty laundry, but okay. So Jeannie likes to sleep in, seriously. She'll go to bed at 4 in the morning and then she'll sleep until about noon, 1 o'clock. And you're wondering, how come I can't get Ginny in the morning? Well, it's because she's sleeping, her clock, it's really weird. Her clock is like 4 to noon. That's when she likes to sleep, and she craves sleeping. Like her, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this. She likes sleeping more than other things that I like, okay? She craves it. It's like she just, and what's weird about sleeping is that you're unconscious. But when she wakes up from a long sleep, it's like heaven for her, okay? Now, I'm one of those guys, I sleep fast, and I get up, and it's like, man, let's get rocking. Let's get this day going. It could be like, 6 in the morning, 5:30. It could be at 7, whatever. But I am like, man, because when I wake up, I can't go back to bed. I'm not one of those kind of people that can sleep in. Because when my mind gets conscious, it's like, I got all these things I got to do. Things just fire. I got to do this. I got to talk to this person. I got to boom, 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 boom. I can't sleep in. It's just not something I can do. So what I do, it just drives me nuts because I'm awake and she's asleep. And I'm thinking, how can you live your life like this because you're wasting so much of the day is how I used to think. I used to think that, man, what a waste of time sleeping. Okay, but it's a thing that she loves to do. All right? So I was just thinking about just like, why can't we get this thing together? Like even when we go to another time zone, like we go to the Pacific time zone, you think that her clock would sync and then she'd get up at a normal time because it's 3 hours later there. So like if she goes to bed at 4 in the morning East Coast time, that's really 1 in the morning West Coast time. But I promise you, when she goes home to visit my family, that one, when she'll go to bed like normal Eastern time, but all of a sudden it gravitates from 1 in the morning to 2 in the morning. Over time, she'll gravitate to 4 a.m. is when she goes, and she'll get up at noon. Okay? So I guess my point is, it used to drive me crazy. Not to the point where we're going to get a divorce, but it was just like one of those things, right, that it drives me nuts. All right? Well, here's what Grace says. And it may not seem like a big thing to you, but like anything about your spouse, you focus on the differences and then all of a sudden it becomes this big thing. Here's what Grace does. Grace says, I accept you for who you are. I accept you, honey, that you love sleeping more than the other thing. I accept you. That's why I love you. I love you for the great things about you, the kindness and compassion you have for me, and the great mother you are. And I also love you not in spite of you sleeping in. I love you because you sleep in. Do you see how different that is? Not in spite, right? What does spite mean? I love you, but. It's the I love you, but. That drives me crazy, but I still love you. But it's I love you and. It's both and. It's I love you because you're a compassionate person. You're a loving mother. You're an awesome mother. And I love you because you sleep in. Do you see how that switches in your mind? I love you because you sleep in. Not something I do. And I hope she loves me because I get up early and I'm like, ba, 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 right? That's what Grace says. Now, it doesn't mean that I would want for you to stay the way you are, right? I would want you to become the best version of yourself. No matter what. I want you to seek holiness. I want you to become better, but I can't make you become better. Not that sleeping in, I'm going to solve that. I can't solve that. She's got to want to do it. But I want her to be the best version of herself. So I'm not wanting to, I'm not seeking for her to get worse or be whatever her, but I want her to be the best version of herself, like I want for my children, and more importantly, like I want for myself. See, the thing is, I can't expect her to become the best version of herself if I don't become the best version of myself. I can't control her, but I can control me. And when she sees me working on becoming a holier person, becoming the best version of myself that God wants me to be, then what amazing is that she sees that, she tries to keep up with me. It's pacing. It's this pacing thing that happens if you love each other and respect each other. What happens is they come with you. right? The growth happens together. And as you're moving forward, become the best version of yourself, she will gravitate to becoming the best version of herself, right? And the more respect and compassion you have for them and the grace that you bestow upon them unmerited, the more that grace will come back to you. God put that model together, gang, right? So, forgiveness is ultimately what begets from grace. It's what you get from grace, is the idea of forgiveness, right? And this forgiveness all over the Bible, right? I mean, when Peter goes to Jesus and says, Master, how often must I forgive my brother who does something against me? Is it 7 times? And Peter's like, okay, give me the rules, man. Give me the rules so I can like operate by the rules. And Jesus says, no, man, 70 times 7 times. Okay, so Peter's going, okay, 490 times. Man, Jesus is all about forgiveness. God is all about forgiveness, for what we've done. There's the adulterous woman, and he says, those of you who have no sin on their heart, throw the first stone. They want to stone her because she's an adulteress. And one by one, they drop the rocks and they walk away. They walk away. And then he goes to her, it's like, where have they gone? I do not know, sir. He goes, well, I forgive you. Your sins are forgiven. And then he says, basically, go out and be a better person. Don't sin anymore. Go out to become a better person. Man, talk about the ultimate forgiveness. How about on the cross? Okay, I know it's a little bit of church, but I'm not going to apologize for that. And he's on the cross. He's been beaten up, lashed. His flesh is torn out of his body through lashing and carrying that cross. And he raises his eyes to his Father before he dies and says, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they're doing. They have no clue that they're crucifying the Son of God, right? See, or the Our Father. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. How do we even expect forgiveness from our Father if we don't forgive our brother and sister, right, here on this earth? See, grace and forgiveness kind of go hand in hand. It's amazing, the human capacity for forgiveness. Amazing what people can forgive another person for. It's really an evidence of a love that is supernatural. It's a supernatural love that really surpasses anything out there, right? And what more can you have for your spouse than that perfect kind of love that is underlined and has a foundation of forgiveness, right? So there's a story, Nelson Mandela. Okay, so maybe some of y'all my age, you remember when Nelson Mandela was released from prison after 27 years, right? 27 years of unjust imprisonment. And he is released, and he's actually voted president of the country in South Africa. And apartheid was raging. Talk about it, that prejudice, racial prejudice in law. It's crazy. But after 27 years of imprisonment, at his inauguration, he had the jailer of the jail that he was in, when he was sworn in, on the same stage. On the same stage. And everyone thought, what a victory to vote Nelson Mandela in, because we want justice. We want justice. You know what Nelson Mandela said? He goes, we don't need justice. We need healing. We need more healing than we need justice. And what I love about him is that, hey, I'm president of the country. The company. I'm president of the country, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to establish a organization, this government organization called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And what this kind of a tribunal, a council, what they would do, they were in, kind of put in place for 2.5 years. And what they would do is any of the white officers, police officers, or army that committed atrocities against the black people there, they could come to the commission and they can confess the atrocities that they committed. And after they confessed the atrocities, the commission would absolve them of the crimes and forgive them of their crimes. They would not be prosecuted for their crimes, right? So this one police officer, his name's Vanderbreck. So Vanderbreck, because South Africa was, I think, settled by the Dutch, so you got a lot of the Dutch names, right? So a white police officer came to the tribunal or to the council, and he confessed the killing of an 18-year-old in a village that he would patrol or whatever. He just didn't like him. This 18-year-old black man, he just shot him in the head, killed him. And then what he did with the dead body, with his fellow police officers, they would put him on a roasting pit and just set fire to the body and just let it burn. Let it burn to the bone. And they would sit around and watch it burn. Okay, so you think that's bad enough, an 18-year-old. So he comes back like a couple years later. He's in that village and he sees the father of the 18-year-old. You know what he does to the father of the 18-year-old? Takes his gun and shoots him in the head, kills him, does the same exact thing, puts him on a roasting pit and burns his body to the bone. And he's confessing these atrocities. And he says, and he was remorseful, saying, can you imagine the guilt of all that hatred and the atrocity you committed? How can you live with yourself if you have any amount of decency in you? And so part of this was cathartic for him, confessing and really showing true remorse, like, I'm sorry. And so what the judge did was sitting in the audience was the mother of the son and the wife of the husband. And he turns to her, the judge turns to her and asks her, do you have anything to say to Officer Vanderbreck? And she said this to him. She says, I want 3 things. Number 1, you took my son, you took my husband, and I have no one else to love. So the first thing I ask is that you come to my house 1 hour every other week so that I can have someone to love. That's the first thing she asked for. The second thing she asked for is the first time you come visit me, I want you to gather the dust outside my house, and I want you to give my son and my husband a proper burial. And then the third thing that she said is, not only do I forgive you, but my Lord Jesus Christ forgives you. At that moment, Vanderbreck faints. This overwhelming grace and forgiveness that she gave him, the dude faints. And in the courtroom, in this tribunal, in this environment, all of a sudden you start hearing the people in the audience start singing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. They started singing the song that came up because of the display of true grace and forgiveness. Look, if we claim to follow Jesus Christ, for those of us that believe, how can we not forgive each other? Let alone, how can we not forgive our spouse who've committed a lifetime to you of anything that they've done, no matter how horrendous? As you can see, the level of compassion, forgiveness, and grace that this woman had toward the murderer of her son and husband, how much more should you have for the person that you've committed to the rest of your life, right? They say that marriage is the perfect union of two forgivers, right? Be a grace giver, be a forgiver, right? And I promise all your relationships, particularly the one that you live with at home, the one should be the second most important outside of your relationship with God is your spouse. And if you can be a forgiver and not a nitpicker, be a forgiver and not be a perfectionist, be a forgiver and not a nagger, be a forgiver, then man, you got a shot. And if you can learn how to hold and honor the commitment you have at home, man, that'll spill out in your honor and commitment to your family, to God, with what you do in our business, with what you do living this business the same way you live your marriage, and living this business with forgiveness and kindness and compassion when you go out there and serve other people. You know, maybe your upline isn't the best upline in the world, but you forgive your upline of whatever they've done, that you felt disrespected, that you felt all those, that you still forgive them. And then your group, you get a roll-up chargeback, and you have the ability to forgive them too. When you live your life with grace and forgiveness, then you live your life on a different level than everyone else, man. And you know who sees that? God in heaven sees you. How much more he will forgive you when you forgive everyone else. All right? So hopefully that helps you put things in perspective. As you have Thanksgiving next week, you can have Thanksgiving for your family, for your spouse, right? For all the stuff that she or he has to put up with you, right? And that you've learned, you know what? I'm going to become a better version of myself with my relationships, with my spouse, with my children, with my God in heaven. And man, your whole life will change, and the business will change. Everything will change around you. It's amazing. When you can fix you, everything kind of falls into place. It's not going to be easy, but you know what? It was not meant to be easy. We're living this journey on this life, and why it's not easy is because God in heaven is the one that makes the burden lighter. Take my yoke upon your shoulders. My burden is easy, my yoke is light. And that's who you can depend on, right, to continue on. So, man, I hope this helped. God bless you. I know it's kind of a little bit different than we've talked about before, but I don't know. I was in church this morning. I thought maybe I need to talk about this. So God bless you all. Rock on.